Tonight, we are talking about keeping your cool with opponents. Okay, how to keep your cool with opponents. So what we're going to do tonight, and I'll just give you a little bit of a lay of the land, is we're going to do sort of workshop this theme for about 45 minutes, and then we're going to take 15 minutes to half an hour. I'll open it up to questions or open coaching, and as usual, you can take part in however much you want of this. So how to keep your cool with opponents, folks. Tonight, we're going to explore why being able to navigate conflict skillfully is just so important to your mission. I'm going to work with you on techniques for not getting rattled or discouraged by people who oppose you, and to even maybe turn the pushback you get into opportunities for bridge building. Okay, so we often think about conflict and pushback as this bad thing, but actually, as a true change maker, those can be some of the most golden opportunities. And I really want to sort of change your mindset around that. But I always love to start with a check-in, folks, because we're all coming from different places. We've all had different days, and it's really good to get present so that you can really engage and absorb what we do tonight. And we'll make this short because I've got a little bit of a longer exploration I want to do around this topic a little bit later on. So I'm going to get you all to just close your eyes for a second, get yourself comfortable. If you don't like closing your eyes, just cast your gaze down. And let's just start with one great big old breath. And that breath is just a little signal to yourself and to your body that we're moving into a different place. And let's start with some shoulder rolls backwards. So just really slow shoulder rolls, big range of motion, and just letting this be your sort of guide to coming back into your body, to feeling your body. Okay, often throughout the day, we start getting more and more entrenched in the mind, and we lose sort of feeling of the body in this moment. And that's where all the magic happens. So really enjoying those shoulder rolls backwards. And as you roll the shoulders backwards, I want you to think about opening up the chest, giving yourself a little bit more space to breathe and for the heart to open. Good. And then letting the shoulders relax down. And let's just do a little shake out of the shoulders, shaking out the body. And it could get as big or as little as you want, but I'm going to do a nice big stretch and shake because I need it. And it could even get into the head, and into the face, and even into the lips, and really shaking out even the face and the facial expressions. Oh, I love it. Excellent. And then just letting everything go slack. And letting everything just start to rest. And I just want you to notice where in your body you're holding the most stuff. I want you to notice where you're holding on for dear life. Now, that could be in your shoulders, that could be in your chest, that could be in your abdomen. That's a place that tends to hold on for dear life. That could be in the crown of your head, it could be in your throat. Just noticing where it is you're hanging on for dear life, like at any moment you might fall into the abyss. And first of all, just to have a little sense of humor about that. You know, knowing that you're actually in a safe place right now, relatively safe place, where you can just soften and relax. And now going to that place in your body that you identified was holding and is tight. And I'm going to get you to breathe right into that place. I'm going to get you to bring some fresh oxygen, some just beautiful spaciousness into this place in your body. Yeah, just nice big breaths into this space that was feeling very tight and crunched up. And now I'm going to get you to stay on this place and stay on the breathing, but I'm going to get you to switch your attention to the out breath. So with every out breath now, I want you to just let go of the holding. With every exhale, just feeling like you could start to soften this holding. Let go. And let that sense of softening and letting go just sweep through your whole body. Feeling that softening and letting go in the crown of the head. Moving the lower jaw back and forth a few times to loosen it up, and then let that softening happen in the jaw. Let that softening just sort of flow down the neck and the throat. Softening the heart. Softening the abdomen. Softening the belly. And softening the pelvis, the root, the hips, the base of the spine. Excellent. All right. And let's just take in a nice big grounding breath. And letting go with a big exhale. And coming back when you're ready to eyes open. Okay, that was very quick, but makes a difference, doesn't it? It just shifts things just a little bit. Hopefully allows you to be a little bit more open. Oh, there's a bunch of people in the waiting room. Sorry. I just realized. There we go. Letting folks into the waiting room. From the waiting room. I just got a message saying, I'm not getting in. That would be why, because we're meditating. Hi, folks. Sorry that you were. Hi, folks. Sorry you're waiting. You're waiting. I'll just mute there, Kathy. Yeah. So
no worries. Sorry.
Yeah. So, good. Thank you. Can I ask for everyone to just mute yourself? Just mute yourself. Just for now, because we seem to have a little bit of a, there we go. Seem to have a little bit of an echo, but I think we're good now. All right. So welcome to those of you that just joined us. Again, apologies. We were just in the middle of a meditation. And so we are so happy to have you here now. All right. So folks, it is not easy being a change maker, my darlings. I am so proud of you for even attempting it in this world. And I'm so thankful that you are called strongly enough to go against the status quo, to go through inconveniences, to, basically extend yourself in this way that not a lot of people do. Being a change maker means you're on the leading edge of where society needs to go. So you're always in a minority. So not only are you facing opposition from most of the world, but often from your own friends and family and colleagues. Anybody relate to this? Just nod your head. Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of like, oh, I could take on the whole world, but do I have to also take on my closest peeps? Like it's really hard. Or I can take on my family if I'm like just going ballers in the world kind of thing. So the thing is that when we are facing opposition, it can go in one of two ways if we're not sort of grounded in it. And that is, it can be infuriating. Okay, it makes us reactive. It makes us really want to strike out. It makes us want to fight. And the other way it can go is it can really break our hearts. Okay, it can really discourage us. It can make us sort of want to fold up and shut down. And neither of these are really very helpful. Okay. Let me give you some examples. So let's take the heartbreaking thing. When you find it too heartbreaking, well, first of all, you get alienated. You sort of start keeping to yourself. You stop sharing so much. You tend to lose hope. It takes the wind out of your sails. You lose a lot of your energy, and sometimes you fold altogether on your important mission. Okay, so the heartbreaking thing, the feeling sad about it, it just really doesn't work. But let's also talk about the infuriating, way of responding to conflict. So the revving up of that level of anger, revving at all times, is very energy intensive. It takes away a lot of our energy. And as change makers, we need all the energy we can. And also being reactive and really striking out, it doesn't do any favors to the cause that you're a part of. For example, we've got a lot of animal rights folks here. In animal rights, many people dismiss veganism because they think of this whole angry vegan, trope. And, maybe, we've got here one of the most powerful things you can do as a lifestyle change, as an individual, to create positive change. And they're busy saying, I can't do it because there was once this person that was a vegan and got angry at them. Okay. So, these are also people that might just use any excuse, but don't give them an excuse, right? Or think about the social justice warrior trope online. Okay, this SJW, SJ. I don't know if any of you hang out on Twitter, but you'll never hear the end of SJW, the social justice warriors. And this is basically, a lot of sort of alt-right people who frame anybody that's in social justice as these maniacs who turn into babies if they don't get their way. Okay, and so there's already so much stuff that is, so many people are wanting to be against us. Don't give them more fuel, is what I'm saying. And that's what happens when we're reactive. We tend to give people more fuel. And folks, don't get me wrong. There are so many reasons for us to have big reactions. There are so many profound injustices in this world. Plus, our planet is careening towards complete disaster. So it can be enraging and devastating to just be in this world. And that is why it's so important to find space and tools to express this very natural sort of heartbreak and this very natural rage in a way, though, that doesn't harm, okay? In a way that is where you can use tools and you can do it in your own space, and you don't react in a harmful way to yourself or others. And actually, we're going to be doing a workshop on that in 4 weeks. So not next week, but the 2 weeks after, we're going to be working on pain processing tools, like very specific things you can use for being able to process sort of the natural pain that comes up as change makers. So for the sake of our mission, we need to learn how to be empowered in the face of opposition. So before I kind of get into the nuts and bolts of how that looks, I just really want to remind you that the chat is a really great place if you are agreeing with something, or you're not getting something, or you have a specific question about something. Please, don't be afraid of plopping it in the chat. Hi, Ina. I'm so glad you joined us, darling. Yay. Okay, so before we get into how the hell do I be empowered in the face of opposition, I want to just talk about what opposition looks like, okay, what we're talking about here. So I kind of have it in two sets of opposition, and one is those that are ideologically set against your cause, okay, they're just like totally think a very different way than you. They are just like they are set in their brain about something that goes in conflict to what you believe in. Now, these oppositions are tough, okay? These folks are seemingly unmovable, and they can fight like hell, but folks, they are movable, okay? And the thing is, with this type of opposition, it's probably not going to happen in a conversation. It's going to be an ongoing pattern of them being exposed to your issue and in a way that they can understand. That is the way that we work with ideological opposition, okay? Or at least the way we need to regard them. Now, the other times, as far as opposition goes, are often just folks who are uncomfortable for whatever reason with the changes you're personally trying to make or you're helping to bring to fruition. Okay, and again, that usually falls under the category of friends and family, coworkers, people that are know you and are taking some sort of personal opposition to what you stand for. So when it comes to, oh, sorry, I'm just muting there. So when it comes to when you come up against opponents, tell me if this sounds familiar. Okay, you come up against an opposition, somebody who's sort of going, no, what you're doing doesn't make sense and you're wrong or whatever. There are a couple of classic reactions that come up if we are not empowered. And those classic reactions can generally go under two of these categories: fight or cower. Okay. And the reason it's so simple is because when we get opposition, our body often experiences it as being attacked. And as our primal self, we're feeling danger, okay? And when we're in danger, we fight, flight, or freeze, okay? And so, just to know that the reason that we can respond so strongly to opposition, again, in either an angry, way or an upsetting sort of contracted way, is because often it can trigger our deepest emotional wounds. Okay, when somebody says, what you stand for is bullshit, we often hear you are bullshit. Or if they say, that's just not worth it to me, we sometimes hear you're not worth it to me. Or that's wrong, we hear it as I'm wrong. Okay. And so just to be aware, and I mean, these sort of emotional core wounds that we all have, that we got from very early in our life, we all have them. I'll just tell you straight out, we all have them. I've never met somebody who doesn't. Some folks have done a lot of work so that they're not so active and they're not just so ever present, and they've done a lot of work around how to navigate them. And so I think it's just really important that you understand what's happening when you have a really strong reaction to opposition. What's happening is these wounds get triggered, and then we devolve into this sort of primal place of fight, flight, or freeze. We often go into more childish perceptions of black and white, or they always or they never. We lose our nuance. So we can never really see perspective, and we can't really, it's just we're being attacked, right? And we often will act out immediately, or we'll run away from it, either emotionally by shutting down or physically actually getting the hell out of there. So the ultimate state of facing opposition to your mission is to bring yourself back to a grounded, expansive adult state, and then stand solidly in what's important to you, but with a curious and listening mind and a compassionate heart. So I hope you didn't hear me say you back down. No, I'm not saying you necessarily back down. I'm saying you can stand solidly, but you do it with a curious and listening mind and a compassionate heart. I also didn't say, hey, back away. Or I didn't say fight. I said, if you are going to stand up, then you have to do it with these pieces intact. So if you're able to stand solidly in what is important to you, but with a curious and listening mind and compassionate heart, this not only can get you through pushback, opposition, but it can help you to even build on it. It can help opposition become a tool for getting further in your mission. So let's get into some of the tools of how you can do this. Okay, what you can do to not react and instead build on this opposition. So the number one place I start is the mantra, everyone is a potential ally. Okay, everyone is a potential ally. I feel like every activist has to have that tattooed on their arm. And so the idea is, when I came up with the title for this Changemaker session, I put opposition in quotations because I actually don't believe in opposition. Okay, I try to avoid even thinking that way. When we think about opponents, we think about the idea that we're fighting an enemy or an attacker. And what that does is it creates that fight or cower reaction because we're at war, right? And folks, as long as you are creating monsters in your life, you're never going to feel empowered. Okay, there's always going to be a sense of disempowerment because there are monsters in your life. It's not worth it. So what I really try to do, let me break this down. Everyone is a potential ally, the framework. I want you to just look at it in a big, more of a bird's eye view. No matter how different our views might be from another, we all share this world. We all have pain and we wish for comfort. We're all made of the same biological stuff. And in fact, according to science, we're all the same energy, just expressing itself in different temporary forms. But we are all part of this one nature. So this really helps me to understand that even when we have a sense of winning over another person, we're kind of losing, okay? So if you can kick the sense of me versus them to the curb, we are actually game for a win-win scenario, okay? And again, I just really want to keep hitting home. This doesn't mean that, not to stand up strongly and consistently, and sometimes really boldly for what's important to you. What this means is coming at it, though, from a place of connection, okay? Maybe even love and integrity, and not from a fear or anger place. It's coming at what you believe in and standing up for what you believe in from a place of love and empowerment, knowing that underneath all of our layers of conditioning, even that person who I never think I'm going to be able to have as a potential ally, that we are made of the same stuff. I've seen some of the most unlikely characters, folks, eventually come around when I have been able to stay in the right space. Let me give you a little story. I have a friend who had such an angry reaction when I first brought up the idea of electoral reform and proportional representation, basically rejigging our entire political system, because it is kind of, well, I won't get into it now, but it's one thing that I very deeply believe in. I think it's at the key of a lot of social justice changes. And if you're interested in that, you can check out fairvote.ca. So this was a couple of years ago, and I just remember, I guess it was just fear of change that was probably motivating her. Fear of inconvenience, fear of not doing it the way we've always done it, fear of everything falling apart. I don't know for sure because we never had the detailed conversation, but for whatever reason, I just sort of tried to stay in a place of, I'm talking about this not to be right. I'm talking about this because I really believe in it. And I really think this is a really important solution. And I'll just try to help you understand it a little bit more. Well, so, going at it from that sort of skilled, resourced way, what I think I did was I just planted some gentle seeds. And so I just the other day, it's been a little bit of a slower progress and I won't tell you all of it, but I'll just tell you the other day, this person was telling me when the next electoral reform lecture was happening and was wondering why I wasn't going when she was. So it just gives you a little bit of an idea what is possible. And of course, folks, that isn't always going to happen. There are obviously there are people in this world that you are never going to be able to move. And sometimes you've just got to face that and you've just got to move on. Okay. But you also need to recognize that person, as far away as we are ideologically, is a part of me, part of this nature. I know that's getting a bit existential, but sometimes we need to go there with this. And so, let's talk about, what gets in the way of it. And by the way, I would love to hear in the comments if you've had an experience like this, where somebody that you thought would never change changed. I love to hear it. I love hearing these stories. So what can get in the way of that open energy of everyone as potential ally? Judgment, becoming a big old judgy judgerson. And I know this well because I am pretty naturally, I was for many years a very judgy person, and I've learned, practiced my way out of it. But judgment is a poison pill for making allies. It's a poison pill for having empowered interactions in the face of opposition. A mentor of mine, Denise Lynn, once taught me, the moment that you start to judge someone is the moment you lose your ability to influence them. Okay, I want you to really take that in. The moment you start to judge someone is the moment you lose the ability to influence them. So a tool that I use when I start feeling all judgy judgerson is I ask myself, in what ways have I exhibited similar behavior or limits? Or in what ways am I still exhibiting it? So for example, if I'm judging somebody for being not understanding white privilege, I really need to take myself back to those days where I had some white fragility moments. Okay. And I really need to take myself back to those days and remember what that felt like and what I was scared of and why there was any sort of fight around it. And that helps me to really align how I talk to this person in a more effective way. But B, it also makes me remember, well, I wasn't a bad person when I was doing this. I was misguided in this way, but I wasn't a bad person. It reminds you that that person that you're facing isn't a bad person. They're just maybe don't have all the information yet. Okay. Also, hey, a lot of you know me as a hardcore, vegan animal rights activist. I was a voracious meat eater for the first 23 years of my life, something like that. And so whenever I start getting judgy about people who aren't, who are eating meat, I'm just like, oh, okay, remember KFC lady? and it just humbles me. I just kind of go back to, okay, be gentler, figure out a way that what spoke to you. All right. And so we don't do this. We don't like remind ourselves of what we're doing, what we have in the past, or what we do now that is bad behavior or limiting. We do it just to get perspective. Okay. For me, I still remind myself, I know how environmentally bad flying is, but I still fly. I'm cutting down tremendously, but I'm still flying. So I am very much in touch with the things that I'm doing that maybe aren't the best. Okay. And so it helps me to take some of the judgment away. Now, another thing to remember is the number one issue for you may not be their number one issue. There are a lot of issues in this world, folks. And depending on who you are and how it affects you, one issue can be far, far more devastating for you. So just remember, if somebody is being active and doing something, don't discount them. Okay. They are the most likely to be your ally in the future. All right. Also, I want to talk about when someone is really entrenched in their ideology or their opposition, or pushes back in a shitty way, or just won't see the harm they're doing, one of the things that's has been really important for me to remember, the thought that helps to keep me for not just doing that knee-jerk response with shittiness of my own, is to try to remember and if this is a new concept for you, to try to understand that people are doing the best they can from what they know at this moment and what they're capable of. Okay, folks, most bad behavior comes from pain. It comes from fear. It comes from lack of access to knowledge or the inability to learn. For example, if they can't show compassion in a certain area, it was probably never modeled to them in a way they could understand. Or even more sadly so, they're not psychologically capable of compassion. Holy shit, that would be so distressing. So just remembering this possibility softens my heart and just sort of nudges me back into a place of love and integrity. And I've had people push back on me before with this and say, well, for example, that CEO that's, polluting the oceans, they know what they're doing. They see the stats. And I'm like, they know, but do they really know? Okay, like maybe they see what they're doing, but do they really understand that we at our essence are all part of the same nature? No, they do not. Or do they really understand that their actions are going to cause pain to their descendants? Maybe not. Okay, there are different levels of understanding. And if you truly, truly understand, you do not do harm. Okay. And we all do harm. We all do harm at many points in our life because we forget. It's very easy in this world to forget our true nature. Okay. So again, I know this is heady stuff, but it's very helpful. And I just sort of want to throw some kind of easier things at you. And I want to throw some deeper things at you because I know you're capable of sort of working with all of this. Now, in a lot of cases, folks, when people push back, they're not actually being shitty. Just not agreeing with you, that alone can hurt. But these situations navigated well have the opportunity for being able to create constructive dialogue for you to learn and grow. And even if it's just growing in how to bring down the reactiveness in yourself. So let's say somebody comes to, you've put out an idea and somebody says, no, I don't agree with that. And let's just say that you're able to stay out of your reactiveness and in your center. Then you can start on the important work of bridge building with an opponent, where you can find commonalities with that person and build on them. So let's go through a little bit, some of the cornerstones of that approach. Okay, so the first part was to kind of address that reactivity and what are ways that we can bring down that reactivity. So now let's just say we've managed to bring down that reactivity. We're approaching this more from a place of love and true integrity. So what we want to do in a case like this is, instead of making your goal to prove how wrong that person is, the person on the other side of this conversation, is to make your goal instead one of connecting. Okay, connecting, and maybe even finding a way forward. So connecting and bridge building. And how do you do that? Well, the number one thing you do is by invoking the power of curiosity. Instead of painting this person as an opponent or an obstacle that's getting in your way, which we do a lot in our lives, life can be so overwhelming. The world can be so overwhelming. We often label things to make it easier to live. But when we start labeling people, people of human nature, people of non-human nature, we start to put labels on, then we start to really close up our world and our mind. Okay, so what we can do instead of thinking of a person as an obstacle is recognize that they're individuals with their own universe of pain, of hopes, of fears, of joys that may even have something important for you to consider. Okay, or at least, again, even if they don't really have something that is smart to say about this issue, it can at least be a great lesson in what's challenging folks around this issue. It's a really great information gathering. Okay, it's really great to listen and get curious about the people that are opposing you, to build your knowledge as a change maker. So curiosity goes hand in hand. It's sort of best cousin is listening. Okay. So what if instead of when this person comes to you and they're like, yeah, I don't agree with that. What if instead of just going right into explaining in 20 different ways your point, and you know what what about instead you asked clarifying questions and not just to go, I gotcha, but to try to truly understand where they're coming from. Okay, listen to what's scaring them or confusing them or motivating them. Okay, listen. And then you can respond in ways that could actually reach them and maybe even move the needle on things, maybe even build a bridge. Or here's an idea, you might even learn something useful to apply to your thinking or your approach. Okay, they just might have a little nugget that you haven't considered. All right, so just don't discount them. Don't discount the value of an exchange like that. Another cornerstone for bridge building in your exchanges, instead of making the other party feel ashamed about who they are, how about focusing on the part of them that you want to grow? Okay, I just want to get clear about shame. I I talk about shame a lot, so people that work with me, they know how I feel about shame. Shame is wasteful. I think guilt can be very helpful. Sometimes guilt is that little tap on the shoulder that says, "Hey, I don't know if you're in your integrity here. You might not be doing the best thing." Shame says, "Hey, you suck. You're the worst. You're wrong." Okay, it doesn't give you anywhere to go. Shame gives you nowhere to go. It's impossible to work with. So when I talk about this, okay, so for example, if you find out the person isn't understanding the basic concept of what you're discussing here, instead of making them feel stupid for their lack of knowledge, you could say something like, I know you're so dedicated to your work and you really like to get things right. So let's just back it up to the beginning and make sure we're working from the same starting point. And then you can go on to review the concept with them, maybe in a different way. Okay. But I don't know about you, but I see so many sort of social justice conversations and it's just this gotcha mentality. It's like, I got you. You don't even know what you're talking about. You know, it's like, I got you. You're wrong. And it just, what that does is it closes down. Remember, the moment that you start to judge someone is the moment you lose your ability to influence them. All right. And that doesn't mean that you are coddling people. It doesn't mean that you're making shit up. It just means that you are giving them the benefit of the doubt and you're not assuming that they're stupid or that they're ignorant, but you're assuming that they're just not getting something. Okay. I think that's a really great way to work from. And also, folks, when you reflect something more noble back to them about themselves, they tend to rise up to that level. Okay. They rise up to that level. They love that you see them like that and they want to rise up to that. On the other hand, if what you reflect back to them is that they're a rotten person, they sure as hell will fall down to that rotten level so fast it'll make your head turn. Okay. So now, even in those times when you do have to directly question or criticize someone's behavior, you know, for example, in one of the groups I work in, we do corporate work. So we have to go to corporate people and we have to say, hey, what you're doing isn't right. Okay. If you can, in a situation like that, acknowledge one of their more noble qualities at the outset, that can show them that there is an aspect of them that you think is good, this can prevent them from immediately erecting walls. Okay. And that's the same with, I'm talking corporate, I'm also talking family. Okay. So it can be something like, especially if you know someone, it can be something like, you've got such a big heart, so something must be really hurting you to act this way, or to be so, to be fighting so hard around this. Or you could say something like, I'm so impressed by what a go-getter you are, so there must be an obstacle you're having a hard time here navigating. Okay, so it really is, or in terms of an actual issue, you could be like, I know that you're somebody who really cares about the pain of the world, so that's why I really just think you would really resonate to know that this is the case. Okay, so you're really giving them the benefit of the doubt, and you're really framing them as a good person who maybe just doesn't have all the information or has gone down the wrong road. So Carrie says, sorry, we'll have to leave early today. You're finding this session so helpful. I'm so glad, Carrie. Ryan, take notes for your mom. All right. Now, you can, this is the last piece I'm going to say before we do a little exercise. You can also help some walls come down in discussions like this, sort of opposition discussions, by showing a little humility and sharing that you're not perfect. Maybe sharing a little bit about what you struggle with or have struggled with, just like I did earlier. I said, I haven't always been this dedicated vegan. I used to eat KFC and steak, or I once sort of guffawed at organic, or whatever it is. Okay. So, it really can help to recognize that you're not on this holier than thou level. And so, for example, instead of immediately ripping into someone for not considering their privilege, you can recount how, you didn't get it at first either, or that you can share what it was that changed your mind. Okay. That's often a really powerful way to have these discussions. Not, you should do this, you should do that, but what worked for me, or what went through my head, or what really hit my heart, or what really changed my mind. Okay. And sharing so that they don't feel like they're being put on the spot, but that you're just recounting what your experience was. You're likely, when you do this, you're really likely to see people's defenses start to relax, and they become more open to discuss. And suddenly it's no longer opposition. You no longer have somebody opposing you. You are having a constructive bridge building conversation that may not be resolved, and probably won't be resolved in that one conversation. But if this can be your way, this can be your pattern of approaching opposition, I tell you, you're going to have very different results in the long run. So I just want to go through a few of the comments, because I was so busy yapping that I didn't get to see some of them. So Michelle said, that's me. That's me. I'm writing about my hangups and not going vegan in my next blog. Perfect, Michelle. Yeah. So people can really identify with you. Tenebrae said, small shifts in seed planting may work. My dearest friend has shifted his thinking. I'm so glad to hear that, Tenebrae. Amazing. Was this the friend that you were really struggling with? Yeah. Okay. Different one. Ina said, my mom was adamantly against my veganism in its entirety. She would get grossed out about vegan food. She recently donated all her fur jackets to me after I showed her photos from a fur bearer sanctuary I visited. Also, now there is always vegan margarine and soy milk in the fridge, and we just don't talk about why. Oh, that's beautiful. Tenebrae said, us versus them harms us all. Yeah, amazing. Listening. I think that's Cheryl on iPhone saying listening, really listening is one of the most undeveloped skills. Yes, it is. And oh my God, gotcha mentality is 99.9% of Twitter. It totally is. Brenda said, shaming is also ineffective. Better to invite someone to think in new ways, new possibilities. And there's just one more thing that I just want to say. there is going to be that type of opposition, that troll-like opposition that isn't interested in discussing. They're not interested in any kind of bridge building. Those folks, you just have to move on. Okay. You don't bear ill will. You just go, man, they just don't have the capability to hold space for this. They just don't have the capacity. Okay. And you move on, to folks that do. All right. We just, again, no ill will, you don't bury them. You just, kind of send them love and just hope that their sense of compassion and understanding might expand at some point. Ina says, you'd be surprised. I've turned around trolls, but I just pushed and pushed with only kindness. I love it. Yeah. You know when it's time to bail. You need to figure it out for your own health around this. Okay. So folks, I want to take you through something a little bit more experiential. I want to take you through just, a sort of inner way of maybe working with somebody who is opposing you actively right now. And again, that could be somebody who's really close to you. It could be somebody that is just a person that never even met, but there's this sense of being in conflict with them. Okay. So I want you to choose a person just right now, just so that you have it in your mind. Okay. And I want you, let's close our eyes for this, or cast your gaze downward, but let's go into a place of a little bit more stillness. And let's just start with a nice big cleansing breath. Let's do a couple of shoulder rolls backwards just for good measure, just to come back into the body. It's always good to do this work embodied. And letting those shoulders relax down. And I want you to bring up this person in your mind's eye and bring them up in exactly the way that you've sort of been stuck imagining them, or this pattern that keeps on happening with you both. Okay, so being able to see that person, maybe being able to hear them talk, see the expression on their face. And it might even just get your blood boiling, just envisioning that, or it might just make you feel deflated. But that's okay. Just feel into that right now. Just feel into that. But now I just want you to stop. I want that scene to stop. I want that person to stop. I want them to freeze. Okay? And then before your eyes, I want you to see this person start to soften. First of all, you might see their sort of expression start to soften. Our face can get contorted when we are in fight mode, criticizing mode. But so seeing their face start to get more vulnerable, their expression more soft. Also start to see their body getting softer, not such a tight or aggressive or demeaning or dismissive stance. Just kind of see and feel some of the vulnerability that might be behind some of the aggression or fight. Is there some fear in there? You sense that there's something they're afraid of losing, or afraid of you seeing, or afraid of having to handle something they don't know if they can handle. Maybe there's hurt. Maybe there's something around, what you're presenting that hurts them, that makes them feel kind of ashamed, makes them feel guilty, which then makes them feel ashamed. Maybe they don't feel like they're capable of changes. And so it just sort of brings up this sense of powerlessness for them. Often the people that are the most aggressive are the most powerless feeling because they can't let anybody get near that powerlessness when they can't let anybody know how wounded they are. So they fight like hell to keep people away from knowing that. And if you're having trouble sort of seeing this person transform into their more vulnerable self, you could even envision them as a child before all of these layers of conditioning were placed on them, before they were brainwashed or contorted to please others. Maybe you could see that little boy or that little girl. Maybe you could relate to them for a minute. Just seeing if you could find a little bit of tenderness in your heart for them. And now I'd like for you to go back into that original situation with that person and holding kind of this tenderness and this understanding in your heart. Just see and feel how this might play out a little differently than you might have expected or it has in the past. Just going to give you a minute to just sort of reimagine in this feeling, in this state, how this might play out. Hmm. Beautiful work. Let's take in a nice breath to ground this. And letting go with a sigh. And coming back when you're ready to eyes open. So I'd love to hear in the chat how that was. I'd love to hear, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes there's somebody that has been a very strong force of opposition and has made life very miserable for you. And in that case, it may take a lot of these sessions, a lot of, just for a minute feeling into this part of them. And again, just because you get tenderness towards somebody and understanding doesn't mean you're going to back down. It doesn't mean you're going to say, yeah, you're right. Let's go. Let's do it your way. No, not at all. It just means when you stand boldly in what you believe in, you're going to do it from a different energy. Okay. You're going to do it from an energy of integrity. And so no matter how they react to it, you're clean. Okay. You did it from a place of understanding, love, integrity. And so how they respond is their business. All right. Susan said, really interesting. I imagine someone I never imagined softening, but I could bring up a memory of them softening and see the way they behave comes so much from fear. Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. So there is a question here, which I'm going to address in just a second. But what I want to do is I want to shift over to questions officially. And I just really want to say, before we do that though, folks, I've experienced hundreds of times how when someone with a differing opinion senses an intention of true connection in one's communication, their walls, they just tend to collapse and their minds and their hearts start to open. And this is where the juiciness of change making happens. Okay. This is the way forward right here. So yeah, so I hope that you got a few tools out of this, and I hope I'd love to hear in the comments if there was one thing in particular, one tool or one mindset shift that really resonated with you, whether that was everyone's a potential ally, or people are doing what they can from their limited space of that moment. Maybe it was the moment that you start to judge someone is the moment you lose your ability to influence them. Maybe it was some of the techniques around sharing from your perspective or being humble. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. It's just been so wonderful seeing all your faces here tonight, everyone. And I'm really, it thrills me to bring you all together. I know where some of you are all coming from, and I love the fact that this group is coming together and getting to know each other's faces. And also, sort of in the future, with the Changemaker sessions, we might have like a little bit more get to know you, a little bit more sort of getting to, a sense of what people are doing, and what they could maybe use some help in, or whatever. So I will keep that in mind for the Changemaker sessions. Let me talk to you about next 2 weeks from now. Our next Changemaker session is in 2 weeks, and the theme for that one, let me just see, is called Creating a More Deliberate, Productive Week. So there are people that have, last time when I asked for topics, they were talking a lot about habits, productivity. So I want to start with this one. There are so many ways for time management, productivity, but this is one that I love. There's a couple of particular tools that I want to teach you for creating a more deliberate, productive week. So I hope you'll join us in 2 weeks at 7 p.m. Eastern time. All right, darlings, go out there and change the world. I'm so proud of you, sending you all my love to support you in your mission. Bye.